Hello, welcome to episode number 3 of Church Technology. And I've actually been on vacation for about the last 2 weeks, which is why we haven't had a show in the last week. So while I was gone, I was thinking about what I want to talk about, and I got some emails from people with some questions already, and they are actually good questions, and I'm going to do something a little special, a little different tonight, kind of like a replay of another show. But before we get there, I want to bring up a few things. First of all, we wanted to know what is the best day and time for you to watch the Church Technology Show. So what we want you to do is send an email to churchtechnology@tech-zen.tv, letting us know if you could watch live, what is the best day and the best time for you to come watch live. We want to start trying to build a live community, and if we have to move the show to a different day and time, we'll do that. And we'll do the best we can, at least. And if we can get a common consensus of when some people are available, we will try to maybe adjust our schedule a little bit so that some people can come in and join us live. So that's the first thing. So definitely send us an email. But first of all, we love feedback. So if you want to send us an email anytime, definitely just drop us a note. We'd love to have some feedback. So the next thing is, we have set up a Google Plus community that you can go out and join, and you can communicate with other viewers of this show. Actually, you can communicate with other shows as well. All of our shows are in this community, and you can go out and communicate with other viewers. So what we've done a lot, and this is coming from our Let's Make It show, is we have a pretty interactive crowd that communicates for the most part via email to us. But the disadvantage to us answering an email is the only person that benefits is the person asking the question, where if you can go ask it in a community type environment, it can help other people maybe with the same problem that you're having. So we have created that community. So that's the first thing. We also have a Facebook fan page. It's at facebook.com/techzentv. Go there and hit the like if you have a Facebook account. But we do not do the interactive stuff over there. That's more of new show announcements and things like that on the fan page. And any kind of interaction as far as the group goes would be on the Google Plus group page, and you do have to have a Gmail account, and Gmail accounts are free, so it takes a couple seconds to get one. If you don't have a Gmail account, you need to go create one. But if you're on Facebook, go to facebook.com/techzentv, hit the like button. We're trying to get our likes up a little bit there as well. And if you are watching on YouTube, it's youtube.com/techzentv. All of our shows now are at that address, and they are in playlist format, so you can play any show from beginning to end or whatever. You can see all the different episodes, or you can see every video that comes out of the TechZen TV network. And lastly, you can follow us on Twitter at TechZenTV, or the Church Technology address as well. Okay, so the other thing that you're going to notice, I don't know if it's this week or next week when this show is going to start doing it, but in the very beginning of every show, you see this new, almost like a billboard, I guess you call it a billboard, for Alexa.tv, and people have been asking, what is it? Is TechZen TV going away? TechZen TV is not going away. In fact, we are planning on growing even bigger. However, we have some shows that are not technology shows, which do not make sense on TechZen TV. We did have one show we tried to do on TechZen TV, and it didn't work out very well, and we don't know if it's because it wasn't a good subject, or if it was because it's on TechZen TV. People don't come to TechZen TV look for non-technology shows. So we have a number of shows. I think we have like 7 in the queue we want to bring on. And I actually am not on the shows. They are, I'll be behind the scenes, probably switching and things like that. But they're not like shows that, I don't do anything but technology shows for the most part. At least nothing else interested me. 2 of them are sports shows. There's a family, marriage and family show that we're going to bring on. So that type of thing is things that's not my expertise, but I'm going to work with the creators of the show and the hosts of the show to produce the show and put it on a network, which is kind of like, if you think of ABC or NBC, they don't make their own shows. They go to some studio and they make the content for them to put on the network. That's kind of what Alexa TV is. It's kind of like a network. per se, where Text and TV is more of the studio or the creator of the content. So it just, but you'll see it in the very beginning. We're going to start pushing the Alexa TV because there's a lot of things coming out for Alexa. We have a Roku app for Alexa as well, just like we have a Roku app for Text and TV. We have an iPad app, iPhone, and Android app coming out. We're looking at a Google TV app and a few other things like that as well. So before I get into what I'm going to talk about today, I do want to mention something that came out while I was on vacation, the Chromecast. So depending on how your church does video, if ever you have a need to put a screen on some kind of projector or TV, this is a $35 device from Google that from any computer or smartphone, you can put on a TV, either a tab out of Chrome on your web browser, or you can actually download an app into your whole desktop. So it's a very inexpensive way. We do it here. We use Apple TV. The problem with Apple TV is it only works with Apple devices, only iPhones, iPads, and Apple computers, which we have a lot of them here. But if I brought somebody in who didn't have one and wanted to do that, I could use this to broadcast into our switcher, and they could just broadcast their screen that way instead of plugging in the computer. The disadvantage of plugging a computer in is it doesn't always get the right format for video. If you do a projector or a TV, it typically will get the right format. But if you go into something like a switcher, like we use an ATEM, the format needs to be changed. So, but we use Apple TV. It does not do some of the things Apple TV or Roku. There's no menu system on it. You got to broadcast to this device. It's not like it has a built-in menu system or anything like that where you can start up like Netflix or something like that. But for $35, it's a great option. Plug in the TV, plug in USB for power, and voila, with the wireless, you have a connection. So I just wanted to bring that up. So if you have a need in your ministry of some kind to get some kind of video from a device to a TV, look at a Chromecast. It just came out, and it's pretty cool. All right, so this week I'm going to do something a little bit different. While I was on vacation, I was looking through some church technology forums, and there's lots of questions about gates and compressors. And we haven't talked about sound or soundboard yet. We have in our studio a digital board, and it's an X32. It's a Behringer X32, 32-channel digital board. It sings, dances, does all kinds of things that, it's a great board. And it's actually a very good board for a typical church. Our church, we actually use 2 of them because we have more than 30, in fact, they're almost full. 64 channels, and that's just because we run full band, and we're a fairly large church as well, and got lots of different kinds of media going on, things like that. So but not to necessarily talk about the soundboard part yet, but people were asking about compression and gates, and I did it on one of our other shows, the New Media Tech show, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. I did a show on what compression and gates are, and I even went a little bit into EQ. It was kind of focused towards an internet broadcasting community, but it's the same thing is valid, and I show you what compressions and gates do. So because I saw some people not quite understanding what they did, I decided that tonight I'm just going to replay that show. So I'm going to kind of cut in the middle and kind of cut it off at the end, and you can kind of watch what I did in that show and explaining what a compression and gates does, and I changed things around so you can see what happened on the microphone as far as the sound goes and everything like that. And I talk about some things that wouldn't probably be affected in a church environment as far as like microphone proximity to each other, things like that. But you get a general feeling of what a gate and a compressor does. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. I think it's like 24 minutes long, but I'll come back when that's over, and we'll finish up. So here we go. What I want to do is, we've had this question a lot, and I tried to answer it in email a couple of times, and I don't think I'm doing it justice. And that is what a gate and compression does, how to set it. I've had all kinds of weird questions about different sides, or not really weird questions. I've had all kinds of questions from different sides of it. Like, what do I use it? When do I want to use it? How do I want to set it up? And et cetera, et cetera. So this week, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you how you can set up compression. So we actually use compression and gates on our soundboard. We run a Behringer X32. The nice thing about the X32 is it has interfaces on Windows, Mac, iPads, so you pretty much can control it from anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and show you my screen of the X32 as I do compression, and you can see what it's doing to the audio. So I think it's a great way visually to show you what compression does. So before I do that, let me turn off all compression, because we do use compression, but I gotta be very careful when I talk now, because I can very quickly go and start peaking some audio. So I am now 100% totally uncompressed. Now we do not compress on an individual channel basis. So let me hop over here. And this is the X32 interface on the Mac. And it looks exactly the same as it does on the PC. It's exactly the same. There's no difference. But I have no compression turned on right now, and we use compression, but we use it in the group level. So you see over here on this bottom right, if you can see where my mouse is moving down here, we use this group as our vocal. So all of our microphones, including Skype, go through this right here. And I'm going to turn on compression like that, and you can see it's starting to turn me down. So if I look at it on the meters in front of me, I see I'm now not peaking, not even in danger of peaking audio-wise. But when I turn this compression off, I get very, very close to in the peak range. I'm not actually hitting the peak range, but I'm getting a lot closer to it. So you can hear the difference in my voice. But what I want to do is, the reason I turned that off is I want to go to an individual channel, which I'm in this channel. I'm in this channel right here. This is my channel. And this is the overall right here. So you see I have the gate right here. And you see when I stop talking, the gate goes down, just like that. And then you have the compression right here. And I'm going to turn this back on again. So now the compression is back on again. And you see it's turning me down. So basically what these two things do is they turn down the audio level on a microphone. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to first go to a gate. I'll turn the compression back off again. And the reason you use a gate is for background noise. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to actually play in the background some music. Let me get it up here. And I'm just going to go through, I'm going to scroll down and randomly pick a track. Let's see, right there. All right. Okay, so you see now the gate opens. So let me turn this down a little bit. And as I talk, you can see that you can hear it in the background. But it is not loud enough to open the gate up. So if you had a fan in the background, for example, or an air conditioner, or a heater, or a computer running a fan, you would adjust your gate so that it would not turn on just by that noise. Now, you hear the noise in the background, so it's definitely there. Now, you typically have something that noisy. I got it turned up pretty loud. But if I turn it down far enough, you can barely hear it. And if I get quiet, you can't hear it at all. So it just helps cover it up. So my voice is covering up. It's still playing in the background. It's not as loud as I had it a second ago. But you can still hear it kind of playing in the background. So here's how you do a gate. And there's a couple options for a gate. And I'm going to go through here and I'm actually going to go to the gate interface, which is right here. And you see I have a couple of options. I have a threshold, and then I have a range, and then I can do some attack and release things as well. So the typical way you use to set a gate is you adjust the threshold, and the threshold is basically where does the gate turn off, or when does it start turning you off again. So what you really want to do is you'd want to not talk, and then you turn the threshold until it actually opened back up again. Alright, so there it opened back up. And it's staying open. Well, it's closed because you hear the music changing it. So I'm going to go up, basically be one notch on most compressors. So that's where you typically would set it. Now, I typically go a little bit farther than that. And that's mainly because I tend to tap a little heavy on the keys. So if me setting it a little bit higher, I can type without it bothering somebody. So that's just me. The general way you do it is you would go up one notch past where it turns off. And you can see it's still working fine. Now, like I said, my threshold, I generally set a little bit higher than that. And it's also it's also a mic technique. So if you're a close proximity mic person, then you can turn it up a little bit higher because you typically have a little bit more a volume there. So you kind of hear when I see like a pause for a second, it gets kind of weird because it cuts the back off. That's because I have my release time very fast. I could take this release and now it won't turn off as quickly. Watch when I stop talking. So it's less likely when I pause to be annoying. So you really have to adjust that. I like it faster, but I typically have a very quiet room. If you're not in a very quiet room, you probably want to be a little faster because it's going to get very annoying to the listener because they're going to keep hearing this on, off, on, off, on, off. And so I'm going to go back down though. You see how fast, well, when I start talking, watch how slow it goes down. It's basically 1,051 milliseconds. So let's go back down to like a 200, which is fast. Not super fast. So we'll leave it there. So next thing is how long do you want it to stay open when it opens up? So you see when I start talking, it doesn't go down right away. It takes it just a split second. Actually, it takes it exactly 316 milliseconds. So we're going to go ahead and decrease this like this, and it's very fast now. So it could still be a very slow release. Like, let me go bring the release back up again. But it starts going down immediately as soon as I'm done talking. So you really have to figure out what works best for your sound. I mean, I kind of know where I generally am. I'll keep a lot longer hold, like this. So okay. Let me back this back up a little bit. So I kind of like that. Now I typically have, again, I have a very quiet room. The room's surrounded in foam. So I don't typically have to worry about the background sound and the cutting off and on. So that's why I make it so fast. But it really depends on the environment. The best thing to do is record yourself with all these different settings and figure out which one sounds the best. So when you're recording it, basically you read off what you have your different settings to. Now, not all of them tell you exactly milliseconds, depending on what kind of compressor. If you're using a physical compressor, it's just going to be a compressor. Physical compressor, it's just going to be knobs, and you have to adjust it to figure out where it's at. So now this particular board has also the ability to do based on a particular frequency range. So I could set a gate based on a particular filter, key filter, which would be affected, on a particular frequency range, like 1,000 hertz, 2,000s, about the middle of your voice, typically for most people. So also the attack is kind of like the opposite of release. So it's how fast does it turn off? You see, when I start talking, it goes up pretty quickly. If I increase it, it'll get slower and slower. You typically want this to be real low, because you don't want your words to be cut off when you first start talking. So, all right, so that is a quick look at what a gate does. So now we're going to look at compression. And this whole time I've been doing compression. My compression been turned on or off? Let's go look here real quick. My compression is turned off. So hopefully I didn't clip too much and get many clicking, popping noises in there. All right, so let's go look now at the dynamic, the compression. So let's go back to the home screen here. The home screen gives you everything that's going on. You see compression is not turned on. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. So there, compression is turned on. So basically what compression does is it turns, for the simplest terms, it turns you down based on a certain percentage or ratio over a certain level. It'll start to turn you down, and it really does some, they call it a compressor because what it allows you to do is it allows you to keep the soft things loud, but when things get louder, a lot louder, you can start and keep them in proportion to what is going out. So you look over here and you see this little thing is going down. This is how far it's turning me down. And I'm actually going to go look at the dynamics page. And because here are those numbers, and it's telling you right here, it's turning me down 6 dB when I'm speaking. So there's a couple of things you have in here. First of all, you see up here, we have the release, the hold, and the attack. Just exactly like we had in the gate. They do exactly the same thing. but you also have this gain. So what happens with the compressor is it's making you quieter. So sometimes you need to get past that, and you need to turn yourself back up again. Now I need to be careful here, because if I do this, it's going to go ahead and start clipping again. But you need to adjust. So if somebody's in compression all the time, they're always going to be lower volume than what they are without the compression. Just like if I turn this off, you can see how much louder I get. So I get a lot more energy through. So you may have to come in and turn this up, because you're losing a little bit of that energy. Now, you see how far is this -6 compression? That's probably more than what you would normally want to do. I call it tickling the compressor. So you typically want to adjust this threshold so that, I'm going the wrong direction, there we go. So that you're just tickling it. I go a little bit more than I could typically go between 2 and 4 dB down on just a regular voice level. All right, let's see. That's still probably a little bit light, but it's not bad. I mean, it's probably okay right there. That's probably perfect. So you have this threshold. This is where it takes. So at 32 dB, when I go over at 32 dB, it's going to start turning me down 2.5 times for every 1 time it goes up. So if you look at it from the point of view as a decibel, if I go a decibel over this 32, what's going to happen is it's going to turn me. So I go to 33 decibels. It's going to turn me down 2.5 decibels for that. So I basically will be, basically a 1.5 times lower than what I would have been without the compression. So, and the more you go over, the more it's going to turn you down. So if I go over by 4, it's going to be a 2-to-1 ratio. So for every 4 I go over, we're going to turn it down 1.5. So that would be 6 decibels down. So just a way of keeping the volume level without. So if I get really loud, like I'm starting to get really loud right there, and you see it's turning me down, and I'm not clipping and nothing. So it's keeping me at a decent volume level. So that's what compression does. So you have some choices here. A typical ratio for a vocal, I would say, is 2.5 to 3 if you're a speaking vocal. If you're doing somebody that's on a stage that gets animated a lot, keep it at 3, because you don't want them coming in and clipping or getting too loud and hurting people's ears. So this is where you can get through and help that. Now, here's some things about compression. Because lower frequencies have more energy, they typically make it through, and the higher ones don't. So what you'll notice, so when you turn this off, you get a little more clarity in my voice. And that's if you overcompress somebody. I'm going to do this here to show you what happens. I'm going to turn the compression back on again, and I'm going to overcompress me. So now I'm really overcompressed. And I don't know if you can actually even hear me very well, but you see a lot of this clarity in my voice is gone because the highs are just being crushed out. So you got to be very careful, and that's what happens when you get too much compression. If you use compression as a safety, and I'm going to show you another way that you use compression. I mentioned this when I first started. I typically do not put compression on any of these microphones down here. What I do is I turn them off the compression here, and I go in, I put everybody into a group. And then in that group, let me go to compression and turn it on. Now the audio group itself, everybody in this group is compressed. So I use that more as a safety that we don't clip. So we're all coming into the same compressor. So we're all talking, and the louder we get, the more energy you get coming in through different channels, the more energy you get that goes out. And this is how we protect ourselves. And you see I'm pushing it 2 to 4, even occasionally go up to 6. And it's, I said between 2 and 4, and this is one instance where I go to 6 because I just like the protection that it's giving me. You also notice that I'm doing a ratio of 3 to 0, which is why I'm probably going to 6, because I pretty much had the same threshold as I had on the individual mic over here. It just now I'm doing a little bit more of this compression. So I do this in a group. It just makes more sense, because if otherwise you have different people talking different volumes, the compressions compete with each other. It just sounds weird. So the best thing to do is take all of these and put them into a group over here and do individual compression on them. So then you may get the question, why don't you do individual? Why don't you do a gate the same way? Well, you can. However, it doesn't serve the same. It doesn't work exactly the same, because if you use the gate only here, you can have somebody open up a microphone and another one having noise next to it and a fan. You're still going to get it. So I do gate individual channels, but I compress it through this group over here. And this is, again, the compression is just, it's I've tried doing the compression individually, and it just doesn't work very well, especially because here's what happens when you get people in studio sitting side by side with microphones is one microphone will open wide open, and it's really sensitive. You got to turn up really loud because you have compression working, really a lot on it. But now it's overly sensitive to somebody sitting next to it, so you get this echo effect between microphones, which is also another reason why you do individual gates. And that's also the reason why my gate is set so high, is if I'm sitting in a room, like, see, I don't have one here to show, but, I had this microphone, and if I had a guest sitting here, and they were sitting here, and the microphone's facing this direction, if the gate was combined, and he opened the gate up, he'd be echoing through this mic. And the other thing is, with the compression on this mic and on this mic, if he's talking in this one, it's going to start turning him down. This mic's not going to turn him down because he's not loud enough yet. So it's going to seem very loud coming through this one, which causes this weird roomy echo effect. So that's why you don't want to compress individual mics, especially when they're in a studio together. So if I grab one of my mics over here from that our other guests use and sit it here, we would have that problem. And the gates, I set them higher so that he isn't triggering this gate. So that's part of the reason. The problem with that is you got to have good mic technique. You got to stay fairly close to the mic because you need the energy to get it opened. And you got to remember that you have to have that energy to get it open, because if you don't, you're going to get a lot of weird cuts in and cuts out. And if that happens, the only thing you can do is turn the gate back. So the other option you have, if you have guests like that, is you can spread them out, obviously. In here, sometimes we have 3 or 4 people, so we can't spread out too far. We only got 8 feet here pretty much to sit and talk with each other. At least so we are all facing the camera. Unless we put somebody out in the other room at the control station, which works. We do it sometimes, works this as well. However, it's just easier if you just adjust the gate and the compression. So it takes, if you start to play with compression and you put the different compressor on each person's mic, and you start having this weird roomy effect, that's what it is. Don't do that. In fact, it's actually, if you're going to buy a compressor, just buy one compressor. If your soundboard has an insert or a group out, like I was just mentioning, put that through the compressor and then bring it back into the board and use that to do all the compression. And if you don't have a gate, you can probably get away without a gate. A lot of people get away without a gate. It just helps clear the noise. And again, if you're sitting in side by side in a room, you want to bring the gate up a little bit more probably than just that first notch. So you want the person next to you triggering your gate to go off. So let's see. Let's go back over here and see what else I can cover while I have you here. So I get this question, while I'm in here, about EQ too. So one of the things you're going to notice is things in here this is EQ'd, however, it's not turned on. So let me go ahead and turn on the EQ. So now the EQ is on. So you saw the difference in what the EQ did. And what it's doing really is dropping down this 200 low part. And this is probably something we use for a singer, because sometimes in this part of your voice, especially a female singer, can get this little rumbly sound in this area. So that's probably what we had adjusted. Now let me come and see. It's number 1. And let's see, where are we? As I get rid of this, you'll start seeing my voice come back up. So this is the boomy part of your voice, just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just adjust the frequency so you can see what each frequency part does. So I mentioned before, this is like the main part of people's voices right in through here, 1 and 2. So you see as I come up here, that's like the body of your voice, most people's voice. And then you get up in this part, this is where the clarity starts to kick in. Well, female voices can be up as high. And then up in here, you start getting the clarity. And then you start getting the whiz sounds. Right there's the whiz part, around 8K. And it goes on up from there. And then going down at the bottom, you get the bassy sound. I don't even got just my voice for this. And you can see it goes on down from like that. And then below 40, typically, most things don't react below 40. The human ear can hear it, or it's more of a feel at that point. So unless you got subs, you're probably not really going to notice that very much. But what you'll notice is for speaking mics, we don't use any EQ because we actually have the microphones we like and how they sound. If we didn't, we would be not using these microphones. So, and we have 3 different kinds of microphones. So we kind of pick what person sounds best or what they'd like to sound like on each one of them. We don't do any EQ, for our shows. Now, when we do record music in the studio, we use EQ. But more recently, we've actually been recording off the X32. We can record all 32 channels without FireWire or USB. into a DAW, and we actually do most of the EQ in there. So we pretty much use it flat most of the time. We got this really nice EQ in here, and when we do it in the studio, we pretty much don't even use the EQ. It's pretty much flat for almost everything we do. We do have maybe one microphone that we don't like how it sounds. It's really bottom and low, and we do kind of trim that off, but I think that's the only microphone that we have that does that, and we don't use it very often, only when we're short microphones, so we kind of set it aside. So I hope that answers the question about EQ, and there's some programs you can download for PC and Mac. I don't know any off the top of my head that aren't full DAWs, but there's a couple of them out there that will do some EQ, and it does this visually, so it allows you to play with different options. So you can kind of learn what the EQ does, but again, we like our microphone sound, so we typically do everything totally flat, and we don't do anything post either. So we don't go in and change anything in post. We pretty much drop it in the audio the way it comes out of the board, and then we record it, and that's pretty much it. So, all right, I think I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover. What I want to do is, we've had this question a lot, and I tried to answer it in email a couple of times, and I don't think I'm doing it justice, and that is what a gate and compression does, how to set it. I've had all kinds of weird questions about different sides, or not really weird questions. I've had all kinds of questions from different sides of it, like what do I use it, when do I want to use it, how do I want to set it up, and et cetera, et cetera. So this week, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you how you can set up compression. So we actually use compression and gates on our soundboard. We run a Behringer X32. The nice thing about the X32 is it has interfaces on Windows. Okay, so that was a cut of another show, so it wasn't nice and neat as far as going in and out, but hopefully it gave you a good idea of what a gate and a compressor does, and that was the main goal that I was trying to do, based on what I was reading in some forums this past week and a half or so while I was gone. I was out checking out some church technology forums, and just seems to be some question, which is understandable because so many people that run sound at a church don't have a sound background. So it's in fact it's more common than not that the church doesn't. Most churches don't even use compression and gates, and I just think sometimes if people knew what they did, they could get an inexpensive like a Behringer 4x and get 4 gates, which would help with some of the noise, helps with feedback as well because the mic's closed down, the kinds of things that it does for you. It helps with a speaker who's very dynamic, and somebody's riding the fader. You have somebody you ride the fader for all the time. It's a nice way of getting some control over them. But you do have to be careful, and I mentioned this in the video there, that you have to be very careful because if you overcompress somebody, you lose dynamics, you lose a lot of the highs. They tend to get a little bit muddy. The clarity kind of goes away. So you don't want to do too much with them. I've seen people that basically rely on the compressor to keep somebody at a certain volume, and that's not necessarily. It's better to teach the person mic technique. Now, if they're a speaker, it's a little bit different issue because if they're a very excited speaker or very animated, they can tend to get loud. And you can set the threshold higher and then just change the ratio so that when they hit that part, you can turn them down, pretty extensively. But in the normal talking, they're okay, which that's how I typically do it if they're a very excitable speaker. I basically, the normal talking voice, I keep that at the top level where I want it to be, and then I put the threshold there, and I do some pretty heavy compression. And then when they go over, they get turned down a lot. Now the clarity goes away, but typically when they get loud like that, they aren't doing it for very long. In fact, most of the time it's very short, and most people don't even notice that. But you got to kind of play with it and listen to it and see how it goes. Now, if you're talking about a singer, I don't compress singers very much. I prefer that if somebody is all over the place in volume when they're singing different songs or different parts, like if they get, most females when they get into a higher part, their voice gets much louder or much stronger, is to teach them to pull the microphone away a little bit, and it's just teaching proper mic technique for like a singer. So like I said, that last thing I just showed you was for internet broadcasters. It's the gate and everything works exactly the same. Gate compressors work exactly the same, but you don't typically use a microphone like this. You're typically using a handheld and a different type of person, or you have a lav for a speaker, or headset mic, like a DPA headset mic, something like that. And you really have to figure out what you need. We use compression on most of our channels. In fact, there's some tricks you can do with drums. I'm not going to go through that in this show, to make a bass sound punchier and a snare as well by using some fast gates and compression. And you compress things pretty heavy, and it gets a nice thump out of the kick drum. And you do a slow release so you don't get the ring. It just makes it feel like it's really punchy. But things like that. I mean, and we'll maybe go through other shows in the future of things you can do to the instruments to make them sound differently using gates and compression. At some point, we'll probably go through how to build a mix, because there's a right way and a wrong way to build a mix. If you know the right way, you can get your mix sounding good without much knowledge of really what you're doing. And when I think we sit down and we explain some of the things you do in building the mix, it'll make a lot of sense, and how you can cut things out of certain instruments so the vocals punch through, but you still have the instruments good. There's a bunch of tricks like that, and you just learn that through experience and other people as well, showing you the tips and the tricks. So we will get into that kind of stuff ultimately with this. This show is about all kinds of technology in your church, not just sound. We've talked about internet stuff as well already, and websites, and we want to cover it all, including going down video switching, which is like something we know a lot of, video and sound and networking. That's our specialty. Computer side, video, and audio broadcasting. So we can cover all that ourselves very, very good. We'll talk about software. We use different kinds of software. We talked about cloud last week. I mentioned some of the software that we use. It's cloud-based last week. And I don't know, we're going to try to cover all that stuff, and we'll get into more detail. And as we get questions, we'll even focus more on a particular subject for a week. We're not going to say we're going to do video for a month and then audio for a month. We're going to mix it up a little bit. Every week, something different. We may even do in 1 week a computer thing here for networking and the sound thing here. So, and it's going to be based on the type of questions we get in and things that I see are being talked about in other forums of people having issues with it as well. So today is Thursday, August 8th, and actually I was at a Willow Creek Association leadership summit today. Actually was running sound at our church. We are a host church for that. So but that's why it's getting a little late tonight. I need to get up early in the morning to go back and do that. So I'm going to let everybody go. But definitely give us feedback. Send email to churchtech@tech-zen.tv, and we'll get some. We'll give you feedback. And we do answer emails. I'm a little slow at answering them because I get so many of them. But I love getting feedback, and I do answer them all eventually. And there is the new community. Go get in the community and say hi to everybody. We're just trying to get that started up now, so that's good. And you can go to Facebook at facebook.com/TechZenTV. My name is Mike Myers. I'm the host of this show, and I'm going to try to get some other co-hosts in with me to do this show with me, and some guests as well. So if you are big into church technology and you want to come and chat with me, I'd love to have you on the show. Just send me a note also again at churchtech@tech-zen.tv, and we'll try to get you scheduled on the show. All right. I think that is it for this week. We will see y'all next week at our regular time. For show notes for this show, contacts, and more, go to the techzen.tv website, where you can get show notes for all of our shows. We love to hear from our viewers and listeners. We have an email, a Twitter, and a phone number where you can contact us for each show. For details, visit the techzen.tv website and get the show details. You can also make a video and upload it somewhere like YouTube or Vimeo, and then just send us a link. You never know, you may see your video in a future show. You can get all of our shows delivered automatically to your favorite device by going to your favorite podcast website like iTunes and subscribing. Each of our shows also has a YouTube channel you can subscribe to get regular updates. Our shows are also available on most internet radio networks like Stitcher and TuneIn Radio. You can also watch and listen to our shows on Xbox, TiVo, and Roku. You can even find us on your Zune.